What's going on, Soul Nation? Welcome to a special episode of Coffee Chat in which we're going to be doing a Japanese studio tier list as it relates to what we would rank the Japanese studios in terms of their development and their IP and the likelihood that they're next on Microsoft's acquisition hunger. Now, you might be thinking Microsoft is done acquiring studios, right? They just got Bethesda with $7.5 billion. Is there something else that we don't know about? And, well, and whether it's news to you, in this case, Microsoft CEO himself said that they're not done acquiring studios, and Phil Spencer alluded that the next studio could be Japanese-based. Now, there's a lot of discussion that is just in that alone, but rather than just sitting here and flat out discussing it, I thought it'd be fun to rank the different Japanese studios based off their IP, and then in the second column, the likelihood that they could be next, or Microsoft could be eyeing them or have already acquired them. I'm hearing rumors that we're going to see something here at TGS. Ultimately, we'll have to wait and see, and the internet is abuzz that it might be Sega. Now, beyond the fact that we don't have actual facts right now, I thought it'd be fun to do this. Hopefully you agree. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these rankings as it relates to these studios, both in terms of quality on the left-hand column and on the right-hand column in terms of viability that Microsoft might be eyeing them as a part of their Microsoft Game Studios. Just as a kind of a, maybe like a little bit of non-humble moment, this is kind of what I was warning about when it came down to the Sony and Spider-Man exclusivity deal for just Avengers alone. A lot of PlayStation fans said, no, this is great for you guys. And I say I disagree because Microsoft isn't messing around. And whether you're an Xbox fan or a non-Xbox fan, you have to understand they're not messing around. They are going at this full bore. And if $7.5 billion doesn't back that up as a mindset, just wait for the next announcement. But beyond what we can share publicly here, let's go ahead and talk about some of these game studios. I think since rumors suggest that it could be Sega, let's go ahead and start with Sega here in terms of ranking. Sega overall, obviously was a console. They have relationships already, deep relationships with Microsoft through the Dreamcast, and that's actually one of the reasons why Microsoft got into the game itself. Now, overall, I am a fan of Sega. You've got Sonic, and especially you got Phantasy Star Online, which I am a massive fan of that franchise. And you also have new Genesis coming, and you have Microsoft being responsible for bringing both PSO2 to the West and at their last announcement regarding PSO2. Now, whether you really resonate with any of their franchises, I think Sega is both a very iconic and it's still relevant today, and it's been doing very big things in terms of game development. Overall, I think, and whether you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments, I'm going to give Sega a B ranking in terms of overall quality when it ranks up to all these other studios for Japan. But in terms of, let me go ahead and copy and paste. Let's talk about viability. I think it's highly viable. I would say at an A that Sega might be the one that Microsoft is either acquiring or partnering with as a Japanese partner. Well, usually what that means is that they own some Sega stock. Sega ends up owning some Microsoft stock. We've seen Nintendo do this from time to time, but we'll get to Nintendo here in a minute. Overall, Capcom, for me, especially as a kid, if you guys know, I am a huge Mega Man fan. I think Capcom, especially with Monster Hunter, with all of its IPs, with Street Fighter, it has so many iconic franchises that it just boggles my mind. I personally would rank Capcom here at an A, just for the games that they deliver. Whether they've delivered any big hits recently, I think Monster Hunter World is definitely an example of them firing on all cylinders and something that resonates with a lot of gamers overall. Fun times with a voice crack. However, I would think Capcom would be definitely a stretch in terms of anything that Microsoft would be able to acquire. I think that would be a difficult acquisition overall based off of their success, based off their relationship with Sony. We still haven't seen Street Fighter V come to the Xbox, and it doesn't appear like that's going to happen anytime soon, being that it's on PC. I don't know if that's a strained relationship overall. Obviously, money is a cure-all for any of these contentious relationships, so we'll ultimately have to wait and see as it relates to that. Now, let's go ahead and talk about a fan favorite of mine, and this would, if you guys are new to the channel, hello. Let's talk about Square Enix. I think Square Enix is one of the best game developers on the planet. And it doesn't mean that all of their games are going to resonate with you. I think all of their games, they have hits and misses. Obviously, with the excitement of Final Fantasy XVI coming down the pipe, I can't be more excited for that. And my love for Final Fantasy XIV. I've got some contentious relationship with 13, but overall, I really enjoyed 12, and 15 had its strengths and it obviously had its weaknesses. I think 16 is going to be a game in which that it really kind of helps rectify a lot of that. Now, overall, Square Enix has been doing really well, and they just announced 16 as an exclusive, or at least a timed exclusive for for the PlayStation 5. So obviously Microsoft has no problem honoring those kind of deals, but if Microsoft was going to sit here and say, hey, guess what? We got Square Enix as a part of a Microsoft Game Studios, that would set the world on fire for absolute sure. However, I can't say that, like, again, money is going to be the cure-all. I just think that overall, Square Enix is doing just fine the way they are. And I would think that, especially with their relationship with Sony, it would seem like a real, like, this would be Nintendo, this would be Square Enix going from Nintendo to Sony's platform level of, like, industry shattering moments for me personally. Because I remember when that happened, and it was huge. It was so big, we didn't see Final Fantasy on a Nintendo platform until Crystal Chronicles. That was quite a step, and that was a whole bridge to try to build that relationship back up. All right, let's talk about Sony. I think Sony is definitely one, and with all of their game studios as a rival to Microsoft, I would rank Sony here as S rank. If like, you can't like sit here. Let me just apply those changes. Perfect. Sony is definitely up there in terms of its design. When you think of all the franchises it has, I can. I still like we just talked about Square Enix, but let's sit here and just say, yeah, when hell freezes over, that's what F means. F means when hell freezes over, that Sony would be the one who acquires. Now, I could see that some more partnerships, Sony and Microsoft are partnered on the Azure Cloud platform. I think that's going to hopefully help benefit PlayStation Now and different services like that as we gear up for the PlayStation 5. It would be very barrier shattering. I don't know how people would process it. I've seen people already struggling with the Bethesda mindset that they just couldn't handle it. And they just need to step away from the internet, which I'm not going to judge. Like, if you were really shocked by that, I was shocked by that. But at the end of the day, as long as Microsoft doesn't limit those games on other platforms, I think it's a win for everybody, especially Microsoft, because that's essentially kind of where they're competing. They're eyeing something big, and I think we still have some big announcements to come. In that same vein, from software, I'm going to go ahead and resize this a little bit just because it is the way it is. And Fopiton, thanks so much for that follow. Let's go ahead and talk about From Software. I don't personally resonate with From. They make amazing games. Me putting it here at a C, I know is probably going to get me some hate, but it isn't for me to say, like, I'm saying their games are bad. I'm just saying that for me, this isn't where I would kind of put my time. I'm bad. I'm a horrible gamer. I don't hate me too bad. Overall, though, From has a deep relationship with Sony, and so I would actually probably put them down here as well. Obviously, From has published on Xbox, but they have a, like we're seeing with Dark Souls, Demon Souls, like all of the different Soul series, Bloodborne, they have that tie-in deep relationship with Sony. So the likelihood, I think, would be very low that it would be they would be the ones having that conversation. Because I would think if that conversation got started, they just call up Sony and be like, hey, Microsoft's offering some money. What's going on with you? Obviously, because Sony just recently acquired, it was Naughty Dog, and why am I drawing a blank on? I am drawing a horrible blank, and I suck as a gamer. But they just obviously got some more studios themselves to kind of bring into their fold with Sony Game Studios. All right, let's go ahead and talk about Konami. Konami, overall, has a lot of great IP. I'm going to rank them. I mean, I love Capcom, not Capcom, I love Castlevania, I love Metal Gear Solid, I love those series. Obviously, like, Sony picked up Kojima, and Kojima left the Metal Gear Solid series here with Konami. I'm not ranking their IP. I'm ranking them as a game studio, and I'm going to put them as an F right now. And so if Microsoft were to acquire Konami, I think it would be mostly just an IP alone rather than development. Konami seems to be that they're shifting more obviously into casinos and gambling and things like that. But that's not to say that their IP is not fantastic. I would rank them pretty high in terms of acquisition. I think Konami, if they're not going to be doing anything with those IPs, I think at some point, like especially if you're an investor in Konami, you're like, we're just sitting on this stuff. What's happening? Now, I think Metal Gear Solid, the collection or something like that's coming to PC soon. I just saw that the other day. This could be pretty substantial in terms of the fact that they at least say, hey, we're still out here. We still have these games. As a way to maybe remind people of how much fun they've had with them. So it'll be interesting to see, they could still be doing some development behind the scenes, but overall, I think since Kojima left and we haven't really seen too many follow-ups to these games, and if I'm wrong, I do apologize. I think still, though, Konami could be an interesting acquisition to have, especially from the IP alone and then with their history within gaming as a whole. I'm going to talk about Atlus right now. Atlus, the Persona series, beloved series. And at the end of the day, with Atlus, I think that their games are phenomenal. I haven't got to play all of them, but I do have some love for Atlus games. I'm going to put them right here with Sega at a B level. I know, again, that they could definitely be higher. And when you look at the Persona series, like those relationships in themselves have those ties. I still think that Atlus has a bigger tie and relationship with Sony. And so I would probably rank them here. I'm going to put them at a D. D for right next to Capcom. Namely because we still have not seen Persona within the Xbox ecosystem, but Microsoft does know and Phil Spencer has said that he hears the call to get Persona on the platform. But at the end of the day, I have never seen anything that says Sony has locked down Persona. Persona just recently came to PC. So I think that's a harder fought battle. That would be a surprising twist, personally, in my opinion. You know what? Screw it. Let's go ahead and move Atlus up to at least an A next to Capcom, guys. I apologize for the B ranking. The more I think about it, the more powerful that would be. And so overall, same thing with Capcom. I think that would be a kind of a tough sell. I think that essentially, especially how well Persona is received worldwide, it just seems like it would be a natural fit. It would be really interesting to see if Microsoft could finally get those games on their platform. And I think that would be a big win for Microsoft, even if it wasn't a direct acquisition of the company itself. All right. Koei Tecmo. Koei Tecmo, obviously has root with Tecmo in and of itself, is rooted in the history of video games itself. But overall, you see, they've got a bunch of different fighting games. I think if you're going to be putting it out, when we talk about acquisitions itself, that Microsoft would want to have a little bit more diversity when it comes to maybe a JRPG, a lineup of that case. Now, again, Koei Tecmo does have, Ninja Gaiden, which did appear, and they had worked with them further in the past, and it would be really kind of substantial to see them announce that kind of game. I'm going to give Koei Tecmo a C overall ranking for myself. They don't make games that necessarily resonate with me. I do enjoy them. I do enjoy Ninja Gaiden from time to time, and I honestly would say I would put them right here at a C. Kind of as a way of acquisition to see if that was even possible. I would love to know your guys' thoughts, especially on this ranking, because it's probably one of the most middle of the ground. It's they got some good games. Yeah, they've got some good franchises, and it wouldn't shock me if Microsoft came in and said, hey, by the way, we now have a relationship with them. Now we got two guys here, and you can't even see this one. I've been hiding them. And obviously you can see Nintendo. We're going to save Nintendo for last. Bandai Namco. Bandai Namco has been rocking it. And especially when you look at upcoming JRPGs, MMO JRPGs with Blue Protocol. Now, obviously, if you're going to go with one, I would still look at Sega. If you're going to say, man, if Microsoft is as serious as they are, whether it happens this year or at some point, I could see definitely a partnership with Bandai Namco due to the games that they are releasing and essentially looking at their overall lineup. This all boils down to their overall product lineup when it comes to Microsoft Game Studios. It's all good and well to have more shooters on your platform. Shooters are popular games. But when I talk, especially when I play Final Fantasy XIV on PC or on PlayStation, a lot of the talk, especially within the PlayStation community, is why would I play on Microsoft? Why outside of PC? Why would I have an Xbox? They don't have the games that I want. I would say, and especially having not yet played Blue Protocol, but having seen it, having talked to people who've played it, being very excited about it, looking at their other franchises that are coming up, that I would say Blue Protocol definitely in a B tier for those games. Those could easily become S-rated games. Those could easily be A-rated, but a lot of that looks at what they're building out here for the future. And I think it would definitely complement the Xbox ecosystem very well, balancing it out overall. Now, as far as those acquisitions, money can always, like we said, do all kinds of things, but I'm going to put Bandai right here at the C tier. They've got a lot of relationships with Microsoft. They have a lot of history in the space, especially being a long-standing development firm, but ultimately we'll have to wait and see. All right, Nintendo. If I was rating Nintendo on their hardware and their network infrastructure, Nintendo sucks, guys. Like, I love Nintendo and I have hope. It's like they always kind of get me on the thread of hope in terms of what they're going to deliver. Now, I love my Switch. I love my Nintendo games. But as far as it goes, man, I just like Smash. Oh, I wish they were powered by either Sony's PlayStation Now or Microsoft's Xbox Live. But we're not ranking it based off of their network infrastructure. We're ranking it based off their hardware. Let's move Sony up a little bit. Let me kind of resize Nintendo itself. Nintendo is obviously, from our IP alone, probably the most valuable. Like, you know what? F it. Like, God tier. Let's just put it up here. You can barely see it. Nintendo ranking like as a part of the most massive publisher, developer worldwide. Like, you can't think of video games without thinking Nintendo. Now, I would definitely say, like, this should come as no surprise. You would think that, yeah, Nintendo, okay, yeah, when hell freezes over, the Nintendo would say, like, yes, let's sell to Microsoft. When you think of Pokemon, when you think of all the franchises they have, Zelda, like that, how? You'd have to take like a week off work. Like, I'd have to take a week off of just making videos, because it'd be like, what the F? How did this happen? That's not to say, hell freezing over, I guess maybe it could happen. But let's play in this space, in the sandbox, for just a minute. Nintendo itself, I don't see them building their own cloud. And whether you think cloud gaming is the future or not, just think about this. Microsoft's putting a lot of money into that. They've put billions of dollars into this. They've signed Sony as a part of that. They've signed so many Square-enix as a part of Game Pass. They've signed all of these things. They're definitely making moves. They're competing against Google, and they're competing against Amazon, and in a way, competing against Facebook. I don't think Microsoft is going to announce Nintendo. But if that happened, I don't know. I would honestly, if I was a Sony, like a Sony fanboy, I don't know how they could process that. I don't know how they could justify it, because ultimately, whenever you see like this, with the Bethesda, like I saw a lot of people like, oh, I don't even like those games. Like, yeah, maybe those games aren't for you, and that's completely fine. But a couple people on this tier list, are pretty incredible. And ultimately, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Guys, this is my list, obviously from an S rank. No studio, I think, falls into that category. Any of these could, money is a thing, and it is something that makes things go round. And when it comes down to Japanese studios, Microsoft has fundamentally struggled within the Japanese region. So whether it's an acquisition or some kind of partnership, that's where I think Sega makes the most sense with their previous console history, with, like when you think of marketing, distribution, getting their name out there. Even earlier this year, rumors that like they would call them, instead of Microsoft Xbox Series X, it'd be called Sega something. So it's like, hey, Sega's back in the console business because of that history and that relationship with Japan. And then obviously Japan's been testing out a lot of cloud gaming. So I could see Nintendo being a partner with Microsoft, just like Microsoft's picking up partners in terms of cloud. Not to say that you would see Nintendo games on Microsoft, but wouldn't that be insane? Now, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I'd love to know your thoughts on these rankings, where they fall overall with these games. Would you have liked to see me rank a D and an E tier in terms of what I feel is quality? Would you like to see this list balanced out a little bit differently? Sound off in the comments below. And if you guys would like this PDF to kind of make your own Japanese tier list, let me know, and I can see if I can't get that added to Google Drive for you. So if you ask for it, you'll get it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in my next video. But for Ginger Prime, Prime. My name is Brian. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and I hope to talk to you in my next video. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.